to Stargate SG1 for the first time. Still, not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Aiken, and I'm watching Stargate SG1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm watching Stargate SG1 for the 47th time. However, for the very first time, I am taking a look at the messages that Stargate is trying to tell us, or maybe not even trying to tell us, it's just telling us sometimes, you know, those lessons that hold up a mirror to society, give us hope that things can be better in the future, tell us how to be better human beings. You know, that stuff that sci-fi as a genre is typically really good at telling us.
All right, so we're watching Prisoners this week. Last week, I made a prediction about what it was going to be, and I was thinking about it after I made the prediction that I'm almost thinking it's going to be like a Bridge on the River Kwai thing almost, where like they're going to be taken, SG1's going to be taken prisoner. That was my initial thing, and they're going to be put in separate cells because these people are going to actually know how to hold prisoners, but then they're going to put them to work. That's my little addition I'm making here. But the episode's basically going to be them trying to find ways to communicate and plan and collaborate so that they can escape.
Jeff, for the sake of all of our listeners and viewers out there who may not know, what is Bridge on the River Kwai?
Do you think people don't?
Purely for the folks out there, because I mean, obviously, I know exactly what that is.
Clearly, of course,
totally.
Bridge over the River Kwai is a classic film. Sir Alec Guinness is in it, and it's
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, that's actually one of the. When I was a kid, it's what Obi-Wan Kenobi's in this. I'm gonna watch it. Much younger Obi-Wan Kenobi, who looks nothing like Ewan McGregor. Just for the record, it's weird. But it's basically these British prisoners of war who have to build this bridge. But instead of building the bridge, they're going to blow stuff up. Like they're going to sabotage the war effort. And it's I think it's the one that has the. I think it's where that song comes from. Kind of high leveling it, but I just remember they were prisoners. They had to go to work, and they tried sabotaging stuff so they could either escape or thwart the war effort.
Interesting. People first started being like, "How could Brent not know what that is?" And then people were like, "No, Jeff, here's everything that's wrong."
Right. Clearly, Jeff doesn't even know what it is.
You guys are 1,000% right to do that.
Yeah. Here's a leadership lesson out of the side. If you're gonna be wrong confidently.
With confidence, right?
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, there are people out there, you are watching this right now, you know what Bridge on the River Kwai is. You know I'm probably wrong, but you're also like, am I wrong here? Because I'm confident in my ignorance.
That's also a good parenting technique too.
Yeah.
You go to the zoo, Dad, what's that over there? If you can't like catch the little plaque real quick, you'd be like, that, son, is an African wazoo.
So we'll find out just how close I am here in a minute. But Brent, why don't you tell us about this episode, Prisoners?
All right. This is episode 203, season 2, episode 3, titled Prisoners, originally aired July 10th, 1998. Jeff, that's all I got for you. That's it.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Well, with that, guys, Jeff, what do you say we go watch this episode? Like right now, right? If you're joining us for the first time, here's how this works. Jeff and I are going to watch this episode right now. He's watching it for the first time. I'm doing the message thing. If you want to see that reaction, just hang out with us here on YouTube, or if you want the full unedited reaction, plus a lot of other stuff that I'm sure Jeff has just recently cut out, or me. I don't know who's editing the video. This video. If you want to see the full unedited video, head over to patreon.com/Babylon5 first, and you can do that over there.
And if you're listening to the audio version of this on one of those cool podcasting apps like Good Pods or the other ones, we're about to jump to the future. We're going to skip over our watch, and you are going to, in like 20 seconds, hear my for the first time reactions and Brent's take on the sci-fi messages that may or may not be in the episode. So Brent, we've been talking too long. Let's dive in. Let's watch this thing.
Let's do it.
We have no idea what this planet has to offer. Trees and moss. Well, a few miles from the Stargate, granted, but Captain?
Sounds like Canada to me.
Any signs of radio traffic in the last 24 hours? Any chemical traces in the air to indicate civilization?
Anything at all?
We'll flag it for...
He knows right where Daniel's going. Well, if we look further and explore this... Oh, well, this changes things. Clearly an escaped prisoner. Here we go.
They find me. Taldor.
Daniel? Taldor, I have no idea.
They find me. They find you.
Taldor is bad? Just relax. Come with us.
Telling someone to just relax always works.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Someone who clearly like doesn't actually have full use of their legs.
Right.
He's got a grip on the dude's arm.
Oh, the shadows here? What is that? Is this going to turn into communion?
I missed the Star Trek transporter effect on that
You
one.
are prisoners.
It just go to white.
And you are...
Justice. Talor means justice.
Does not matter who you are or where you are from. You helped for sure.
What, who, this guy? Yeah?
Then you share in his crime.
What crime?
Murder.
We don't know anything about a murder.
We don't know this guy. We're not with him at all.
From something. He stopped for help. He helped.
Second ago, it's all
For
good.
the crimes of trespassing.
Jeff, isn't this literally the setup for the episode Justice and Next Generation?
What?
Oh, you ran across, and that's Justice, right? Like
Yeah.
Wesley runs across the grass, and all of a sudden he's brought up on
He's going to die.
charges.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But that made more like he committed the crime. He didn't know it was a crime, but he did it. Here, they just showed up. They're just walking through the woods.
no, they committed the crime. They're on ancient ground,
Well,
and they helped the dude.
Okay, well, they didn't. I'm going to give trespassing. I'll give you trespassing.
They helped the guy up. They helped him walk.
I'd be like, yeah, we helped him. We were trying to find you to turn him in. I'm glad you found us. We were looking for you this whole time.
Right. All right. Here we go.
You will be sent through the Stargate.
To...
Thank you.
I wouldn't thank him yet.
To the prison Hadante.
Hadante.
Oh, no. This is just a misunderstanding.
For the remainder of your lives.
It is justice. You're going to die for cracking this thing open. You're going to live here forever for trespassing. Cool open to the show. Like it's, I like this. Like, there's a mystery.
This is one of those episodes that every sci-fi show does at some point, is the weird alien justice system that is obviously very unjust,
Right.
by our standards. But
Mhm.
can we apply our standards to an alien culture and judge whether it's right or wrong?
That is the sci-fi question.
that is always the sci-fi question, no matter how big or small it is. Let's see if Stargate chooses to answer that question or just let it be for us.
They got thrown through the Stargate.
Why are they whistling?
Only you.
Bridge on River Kwai. They're whistling. If that's even an accurate reference.
see that?
I'm going to write it, though. Got caught in the whoosh.
Why would anyone do that?
Because it sucks here and he wanted to die.
That
I'm
dude's
taking his
feet are
shoe.
still in the shoe, though.
It's okay.
Like, the feet didn't get
We're not
disintegrated.
gonna hurt you.
They're still in that shoe.
We just want to talk to you.
Take feet out.
It's all right. We just
Those are
wanna
some
talk
cool
to you.
Jordans. Oh, they're like, we got a lady.
Sure.
And she's like, yeah. And now you got a busted nose, too, Ace. Let's do it.
Right?
This woman is under my protection. She is not to be taken by any man.
It's all right.
Because she's going to be taken by
Is
me.
that clear, Vishnu?
I'm going to go cry.
Are
sulk in
all
my
women
corner.
under her protection, or just this one particular?
You were saying?
Or is she the only one? Are there now just two?
That I can take care of myself.
For what little it is worth. Welcome.
She's coming across as like
Excuse me.
caretaker
Daniel?
and nice and stuff. I have a feeling
I think that's
she's going to end
about
up being
it.
the
You're
bad
welcome,
guy in
lady.
this one. Warden
You're
instead
right.
of caretaker.
Yes, sir.
Like Linnea, a gift. For the protected one.
Oh, refusing a gift is probably a huge insult.
You are very strong, yes? I am. Maybe you challenge Vishnu. Maybe you win. Maybe I be your friend.
Yeah, I'm not.
Prison rules happening here, right?
Uh-huh.
Something's generating the power around here, and she seems to be in charge.
I like how O'Neill just keeps going back to here's what we know, here's what we
Okay.
need. He's keeping everybody kind of focused on task.
You gotta trust me on this.
Please.
Say after me, please.
Not our problem, kid.
He is this is so anti-Star Trek. Like he's in the place. Like he's like, this is where we are, this is the culture, this is how we go, and we're not here to fix anything.
We're getting
We're here to
SG2's
get
remote
out.
transmitter signal, sir.
What would you ask of me?
We need power.
There are many forms of power, my dear. Some more subtle than
Like just
others.
electricity.
For the moment, we just
Right.
need the electrical.
There you go.
Thanks for
And
the
we both have
philosophical
something the other wants.
deep dive, but do you have an extension cord is what I'm asking.
The liquid permeates the hard core of the tear root and allows for the organic material within to interact on a basic level.
Basic, meaning
That which we cannot see, but of which all is
So it's a
made.
chemical reaction.
Subatomic. Whatever organic mineral the roots are made of serves as a catalyst, causing the atoms of her chemicals to fuse together. If we had
She's
this
like,
on Earth,
"What?"
we'd practically eliminate pollution.
Captain, back to basics.
Back to atoms?
Will it power the Stargate?
And more.
It might.
Unless it has some weird reaction with Naquita. Like Naquita seems like the big
Activate the
wild
great
card
circle
in a
from
lot of
this
things,
side.
chemically.
It is. That's fair.
Billions. It's incalculable.
You haven't met Dr. Carter.
Well, actually, she figured it out.
Without remote transmitters, we still have no access to Earth. The iris will be closed.
Good point.
Daniel, you know more addresses than any of us. Start thinking alternatives.
Incoming.
Somebody's going to get in the way of the whoosh.
You eat last.
I'd be like, what? I don't think so.
Toothbrush. I mean, seriously. So, like, Justice from Next Generation, Voyager did almost this exact episode. It's called The Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Actually, I think Voyager did this exact episode a couple of times. Look at that.
Please, sir, I'd like some more. Feeding trough through the Stargate. Looks like poured cement.
Mm-hmm. He just hands it to her, sopping on this. Like, he didn't even like take a rag and wipe it for her. You know?
This is interesting. So he's the big boss, but he's serving like some people. So like,
Under
there's
her.
a real
Yeah. That was
defined
almost
hierarchy.
very ceremonial. Like, he bowed, two hands.
This is very Stargate is the new black. The new short engagement series on Netflix.
It was a good show till it jumped the shark.
Yeah, till it totally wasn't. It's like cream of wheat.
Yeah. It obviously wasn't disgusting.
Right? He's like,
Sir,
guy can
SG1
do
wrote
this.
the law
Yeah.
on P3X775.
I picked the wrong planet.
We don't have to agree with their law, but we may have to respect it.
That's the new What planet are we going to next week,
explain that,
Jeff?
sir. On our world, unknowingly,
There's probably a
criminal
Stargate
doesn't
planet
merit this
generator
punishment. However,
out there
they're
on the internet
Taldor,
somewhere.
They're the judicial body. They believe
there's
in
not,
zero
we're gonna make
tolerance
one.
almost religiously.
Major Kovacic, return to P3X775. Let them know we mean business. Better yet, I'll tell them myself.
Oh. I dig this. Like, the Taldor they're not just like evil or whatever. They're just like, yeah, we'll talk. We'll tell you everything. We'll show you what you want to see. Let's talk about this.
It's their system, and it works for them, right?
Yeah.
It works. Virtually no crime.
I mean, we can sit and pontificate on, is this justice? Is this that? But it's their society.
But is it right? Like, look at what's happening here.
That's the question.
And do we have a right to
I
interfere in
treated
that?
before ingesting. Time was short. I offered.
She's
my
Kevin
knowledge.
Uxbridge, and she wiped out the Hoosnock.
Instead of inhibiting the disease's progress, my medicine accelerated its effects.
And they blame you.
Yes.
As if she didn't blame herself,
I'm not
you know?
surprised.
Oh.
And we didn't deserve this either. What you're saying is that you take responsibility for your actions.
Yes.
If this justice system is ingrained
I have
in you
decided
forever,
to accept your
she's doing the
offer.
right thing.
Great.
You're right.
I'll tell the Colonel.
You have altered the balance of power here. I have no choice.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
It is only a matter of time before Vishnu and his followers challenge your friends.
I'll warn them. Thank you.
Tell them also that if they fail,
They die.
they will not live to try again.
Okay.
One escape attempt. That's all you get. Suddenly, it's Shawshank Redemption time.
Oh.
To politely, sir, they're xenophobic. To put it frankly, they're arrogant, narrow-minded, self-centered.
I get the picture.
But they do seem to want to maintain diplomatic contact.
I like this Kovacic guy. Like, here's the facts. Here's how we do it. We want to play ball. This is how we play ball. It's him.
Well, here
It's his
goes.
first time going through the gate, isn't
This is
it?
your first time, sir. A quick word of advice.
It is. That was my note. I was going to tell you later.
Prior to crossing the event horizon.
I love
You wonder
this
if anybody
because,
asked that with Hammond up there in the thing. Like, they don't have the right address.
That's why I love this. He's experiencing what his team's experience and like the fears and the doubts and things. Like this will I mean, we might not see it, but this will change his approach as a leader.
Honestly, though, Jeff, this man is in command of the SGC. It's been a year-ish, we assume, at this point. He's never been through the gate. He's never experienced what he's sending his men out to go do. Now, I don't know how it works in the real world military, Jeff, but I would think at some point you at least have done the trip. somewhere. Maybe he's gone to alpha site or beta site or whatever that was that they were trying to send all those people through. Maybe he has gone to, like, it just feels like that's something that if you're going to be in command of people going out, at some point you have also gone out.
I think, like, just from a leadership standpoint, I don't think that a leader has to know how to do the things, like, intimately. Like, they don't need to know the nuts and bolts of what their team's doing, but they have to know it at a high level. And what I mean by that, they have to know the vocabulary, they have to know the high level processes, and to your point here, they got to know what it feels like. Like, I think about, like, working in a machine shop, right? So I'm a machinist, and so basically what I do is I take this ingot of steel or whatever, and I put it in the machine, program the stuff, I hit a button, and then I watch and make sure nothing goes south or whatever. And then if something goes weird, I intervene or whatever. These machines work 99% of the time. So most of my job is loading, pushing, and watching. A good manager for that person will, if not work a shift, at least hang out with dude every now and then. I've talked about it on I think on Babylon 5.1, I know on Starfleet Leadership Academy, maybe even here. That's called a Gemba walk, where you as the leader go to the place and experience what's there. Because if I know that this job is mind-numbing but important, right? Just because it's not engaging doesn't mean it's not important. I'm going to change how I lead this person. I'm going to change how I try to provide motivation and feedback and stuff. Hammond should have gone through, and the fact he had that doubt before he went in is the evidence of that, because he's sending all kinds of people through that multiple times a day. All of them have had that thought at some point.
I mean, at some point, don't they need to come back and get their commander to come have whatever next level conversation with whomever they've met on the other side? You know, and that would be Hammond, right? Like,
unless, to Hammond's credit, unless he's built a thing where the leaders of each SG group, he's entirely empowered with the authority to go and represent Earth in these situations, which would be a cool thing, but still, like, diplomatically.
I mean, I get it. At some point though, ambassadors have to step aside and the president has to go meet them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Jack is effectively the ambassador, chief ambassador here, as well as the leaders of the other SG teams.
Okay, well, P3A 707 might work, but...
I want to go to P3A 708. P3A 709 was really
for crying out loud.
Daniel, get out of there! You won't escape, you'll die. On my way!
That's a cool effect. Dude's like, shoes.
I want the shoes.
How dare you interfere?
How dare you interfere?
You're dead now.
He challenges me. I accept.
How can you let this happen? Rosher just threw
I
his
really
life
want this
away.
dude to be like a WWE
His
superstar.
life. The rules are the rules. Even I must obey them.
You want to challenge me right here in front of the Stargate on Tuesday, September the 14th? Let's do it.
See, once again,
You can stop this.
they're forcing people to play by the rules that they haven't explained the rules to them yet, and then holding them accountable. Look, the rules, and I can't even disobey them, so you're gonna have to deal with it. I'm like, wait a minute, no.
But I mean, to be fair, that's prison culture. There's no orientation. There's nothing like. If you're lucky, you end up with a cellmate or a buddy who's like, stay away from there, do this, do that. And in reality, like in TV, it's rare that you get that. But the reality is the people generally that are incarcerated are actually helpful. But you got to pick up on the rules.
But in bigger life, though, that you're going to be held responsible for things for breaking rules that you don't know. That's the theme of this episode.
Yeah,
can you be held responsible for breaking?
And it's a real thing. There's this really great workshop I went to a while ago, and I brought the speaker into my program. But it's about it's focused for people that are on the autism spectrum, and how in any workplace there are the written, documented rules, then there are the unwritten rules of the culture. And for a lot of people with neurodivergence, that doesn't compute, right? Yeah. So the example that really resonates is I have a policy as the manager here that if you see somebody do something wrong, you need to let us know, right? Like if you see something, say something. But the unwritten rule is we're all bros here and we don't narc. Somebody who's not a neurotypical, that's not fair. Some people, who think differently or their brains work differently, that math doesn't happen. And so they can't operate. And do I want to get punished for not following the written rule or the unwritten rule? And oftentimes the reality is the unwritten rule has more power culturally than the written rule.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, is it fair? Hell no. Is it real? Very.
Again, you just explained holding up a mirror to society.
Yeah.
You are the one called General Hammond?
Yes, I am responsible for those.
Oh, that was a mistake, Hammond.
By using the word responsible, the general is in no way assuming accountability for the actions of SG1.
Kovacek's awesome.
Begging your pardon, sir, I don't want you to end up in prison along with...
On the contrary, I would gladly hold myself responsible. I ordered them to this world in the first place.
Is this an admission of guilt?
I love everything about this scene.
Right now.
Our law is immutable.
Your law is
Just like our ranking.
I'm not sure if this is the
What's it going to be?
Release is impossible.
Why?
There are no returns from Hadante for anyone.
You want to know why?
They don't know the
There's-
address.
There's no DHD on Hadante to dial out. Have you learned this about wormhole physics? Gate travel is one way.
Yeah, you can go to a place, but you can't pull from a place.
Exactly. Radio signals can go both ways because they need to be able to communicate for sake of the show. But you can only go one way through an open Stargate. So you gotta. So Hadante doesn't have a DHD to dial. Like literally, they're like, yeah, we'll throw you there. You this is not in a matter of being willing to go get them or not. You can't leave this planet once you're in.
And you think about it, I'm a culture that's got a Stargate, but I don't know anything about it except what I don't know it's galactic travel.
Yeah.
I know that, hey, it's got this thing and I hit this button and I go to this place. That's all you know.
There you go.
SG3 was scheduled to go on a mission to P2A 509. General Hammond said so in our last planning brief. We rendezvous with SG3 and we used their remote transmitters to get home.
And this just came to you?
No, this came to me while I was suffocating.
Yeah, I had a vision while I was passing out.
And P2A 509 it is. Do they send food, and I'll use that term loosely, does it come through the gate on a regular basis?
Every day at the same time.
How come nobody gets in the way of the whoosh when they send the food?
Well, because they're not trying to.
I don't want to leave yet. They're going to feed me.
I feel like that's literally the same shot we just saw before. I think they just reused it.
Make more of the slurry.
What are they
No,
waiting for?
just use the scene again.
They believe you killed Vishnor.
You must distribute the food.
Picking up on all the cues. He's like, I saw him bow when this happened, so I'll do that too.
Use two hands.
Hey! They're first.
That's probably not great, right? Like, that's going to engender a lot of jealousy or...
That was my first thought. This is an opportunity, and I feel like Daniel, his default action would be the whole leaders eat last thing, right? I'm the first, so I shall be last. I'll serve kind of a thing, and try and engender himself that way. But also, Daniel is really good at anthropologically figuring out how things work. What's the culture? How does stuff work? And he understands now's not the time to break that hierarchy and bust that up. What he has to do is establish that, hey, I'm top dog, so are these people. So I think he's just being very culturally competent right now.
Yeah. Well, and if he does that, now when he gains that authority, I'm just extrapolating now, he can then talk to them and he has stance to talk to them about not killing themselves in the whoosh, making this, instead of being fair, these guys are feral. Let's call it what it is, right? Like he can actually bring some order to this whole deal.
But he has to establish himself and his crew first. Because right now, they're like, okay, you took out Vishnor, maybe I could take you out. Brent taking a break because he's seen this 47 times.
Okay, well, I guess...
Whoa! That would have been a good chance for him to be like, hey, whoa. Let me take care of you. Could have introduced that concept here. Also, let's get him out of here as fast as we can. Organic extension cords. I love this. Uh-oh. Blind dude is watching. Is she pulling that stuff out of her hand thing? Oh, no, she's got a little... Okay. So blind dude is watching them do this right now. They wrapped their leafy speaker wire around the gate.
I've seen it. The bioelectrical energy there.
I'm just disgusted by how dirty their hands have to be, and then they're having to, like, So a couple got through.
One of the things, Jeff, I don't know if you've picked up on it, what keeps a wormhole open is that something is being transmitted through the wormhole. Like when nothing's going through, gate shuts off automatically. What they never establish ever in the course of this show, it's
how long?
Is how long it can go without something going through before it shuts off, which I think this is one of those answers for as long as the script requires.
Yeah. It stays open as long as plot.
Yes, exactly.
So they just upset the entire power structure here.
They literally took Daniel and Linnea and just left these guys here.
So I'm curious to see if we're going to revisit that in any way, because it'd be interesting to see what happens in The Lord of the Flies.
Right.
Where in the name of heaven did you come from?
Prison, actually. We just broke out.
You spoke of a machine for storing data.
So the other people are just on that other planet, probably.
Where's the repository of this knowledge?
It's all in the computers. I'll show
It's on my GeoCities page.
I'm in your debt, Samantha. This shall not be forgotten.
Our island states were at war, created a sickness. One she couldn't get herself. Half our people died. By the time they caught her, she had destroyed half a world.
Jack's like, oh, shoot.
She took the computer really good.
Yeah, I learned how to type fast. Better
Man, she's got that QWERTY down, buddy, doesn't she? Took me a much longer. I would expect her to go, dum, dum, dum. They're not in order. This doesn't make any sense. There's no rhyme or reason.
They don't even use that alphabet, probably. What's going on? Well, you got played. That's
Abort the countdown. Get a team to the gate room.
Oh, we'll open the blast door, though.
Step away from that gate.
Literally, you know all those soldiers? All those soldiers that come running through the gate every time the gate even time a chevron lights up. In full armor and full detail, nobody's to be found. Like,
and how are they not like always have at least two guys there? Like, just we're gonna have the Iris and guards.
Yeah.
In the military, if the saying is 2 is 1, 1 is none, and none is dead. Well, here we go.
And how boring is that watch?
Yeah, but you know what? All of the watches are boring.
Yeah.
Every single one. It's the job.
Got into the computer, she got the coordinates, everything.
Self-destruct in 10 seconds. 9.
She put she made some virus thing that she just sent through.
Request permission to go.
Oh, she went through.
Our system just crashed.
We'll get it back up.
At least they've still got lights on their face.
Colonel?
Want to play a game?
We let her out.
The destroyer of worlds.
Wow.
Can I just talk about one thing I love about Star Trek or Stargate? Oh my gosh.
Let's do that on our Stargate podcast. Let's talk about what you love about Star Trek.
Can I just talk about one thing I love about Stargate is how they end episodes. They don't, I don't want to say ever, they don't tie them up in neat bows most of the time. They don't finish the conversation. They just let it like, there it is. That's the end of the episode. No, to be continued. We're not picking this up next week right where we left off. That's it.
That's reflected in a lot of your sci-fi, your Chevron conversations where here's the thing, and we're not going to do anything with it. You fill in the blanks. They kind of do the same thing with oh, here's where it ends. Yeah. Maybe we'll come back to this.
You're an intelligent audience. You'll figure it out. We don't have to show you. It's okay. All right, Jeff, you've just watched Prisoners for the very first time. Walk us through it, bub. And I'd like to say welcome back to our audio podcast listeners.
Yeah, hi.
Who have just time traveled into the future.
We took a long time watching this one. We had a lot of little diatribes and tangents we went on.
We really did. Yeah.
You called it early in this episode that this is Stargate's version of the Next Generation's episode Justice from season 1. So in that one, Wesley Crusher, I broke this little atrium thing you had on there, and then now they're going to kill him. Yeah. Here, SG1 was walking around a planet, and then they're trespassing. They get sentenced to this place called Hadante for life. I think this episode explored some really cool concepts I'm sure you're going to dive into. I talked a lot in this one about a lot of the leadership things that came up. So they enter into this prison society. Stargate is the new black kind of a thing. Or Orange is the new Stargate or whatever. But they had to figure out this culture that was going on. And there's this little old lady, who's king stuff. Like she's top of the mountain and not understanding. As this episode's going on, it's mind-blowing. We see O'Neill just fall into like the culture and understanding how to fit in. We learn that, hey, O'Neill, you been to prison before? Oh, yeah, he says. So it's like, there's a little story there. It's kind of cool. Then we get Daniel in a moment, like we talked about Daniel, who became top dog and how he used that to establish, you know, his whole team's dominance in that area. But like, I was getting excited through a lot of this episode because we were seeing some amazing technology. There's this liquid that can create an organic cold fusion and make a blind dude see. Literally, it's like, hey, we have this SG program. That is the stuff that you need to go get. You get that, you've covered your $7.5 billion bill, and then, you know, and so much more. Had a moment that I was like, oh, that's so cool. Where Teal'c says this place, SGC, is home. That was cool. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was an amazing scene. Amazing scene. So SG1 has been taken prisoner, and this new character we haven't seen before, Major Kovacic, comes up, and he's like the diplomat, the attaché.
Well, can we talk about that? Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
So one of the things that you may not have picked up on, but they establish it in this episode with Kovacic. He's the commander of SG9. SG9 is a diplomatic unit.
Okay.
They're not what Jack and Teal'c and Sam and Daniel are. They are purely a diplomatic unit, which is the first time we've ever heard that different SG teams have different jobs, a la Lower Decks, where you got the first contact protocol folks and the second contact protocol folks.
Exactly. I caught where they're like, oh, this is a diplomatic thing. That's going to be for this. I didn't catch the SG9, but my takeaway was just, oh, they have a diplomatic unit.
Yeah.
Which, duh, right? Of course
he was really
do.
good at his job, too.
He was
way
so
better than Daniel. Sorry, just way better than Daniel.
But I think, you know, Daniel's a scientist first. And I think Kovacic is a diplomat first and a people person, which is not a thing I would describe Daniel as. But there's this scene that I think at this moment right now is my favorite scene in all of Stargate that I've seen so far.
Okay.
So Hammond and Kovacic are in the big open room of the Taldor, which are the species that sentenced SG1, which, by the way, they did a cool thing of like, hey, they might show you their faces. Also, they might not. They're pretty arrogant and xenophobic, which was just a great production way of saying, hey, you're not going to see him this time, but if we ever bring him back, you might, maybe, but not now. But in there, Hammond comes in. He's like, I'm General Hammond. I'm responsible for the SG team. And Kovacic and me is like, whoa, by responsible, he doesn't mean that he's responsible for the crimes they did.
Right.
Amazing moment by Kovacic. It was smooth. It was appropriate. It didn't put anybody down. He was just bridging kind of that, the vocabulary gap, you know, the language, cultural gap that he's like, oh. But then it went to the next level, and Hammond is like, no, I am saying that. I'm in command of this team. I told them to do this. It's on me. If you've ever worked for a person with that kind of mentality, you know, like you feel like a superhero. I can do anything because this person has my back no matter what. And it went on, right? Like then you know, Hammond says this thing and Kovacic's like, no, he means this. And Hammond again is like, no, here's the deal. You give my people back or we're blowing you up. Like, it's your call. Like, this is how it... But it was just awesome because every single person, Hammond, Kovacic, and the Taldor were doing exactly what they should do. The Taldor listened to him, right? Oh, you said you're responsible. You put him here. You didn't tell them to help a murderer, so you're not. We don't accept your admission of guilt. How incredibly measured is that, right? We're not going to let you fall on the sword because in our justice system, you didn't commit a crime.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Loved it.
By the way, if I can just piggyback on that, this is not a Chevron piece. You know, there was a time when I would have believed, and mostly probably because of television shows like this one that I watched, The Unit as well, by the way, great show. I always believed that if I happened to be in another country and something happened, that I got captured or I got whatever, that my government would have my back and be like, no, we're coming to get you. Like, we'll talk to them, but if they have like 2 minutes to say, yes, we'll give you back. But if they don't, then we're sending in the Delta Squad or whatever to Delta Force, and they're going to come extract you, and we're going to get you. And people are not going to just hold our folks captive like that. Yeah, that's not the way it works in the real world, like at all. you know? So
when I was in high school, I don't know if you remember this, but there was the kid who was in Singapore.
Oh yeah,
the
caning.
He littered. Yeah, they wanted to give him 40 lashes with a cane, and we lodged a diplomatic protest, and we did a bunch of speaking. At the end of it all, kid took the caning.
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
And there was a lot of people in America who were like, "Dude, you should have been in their land. You should have known."
Got to abide
Not
those things.
being ignorant of their laws does not absolve you of responsibility to their laws. And it's like,
it's a scary thing. But there's even that movie, and it's based on a true story. And I feel bad that I only remember the movie, but Claire Danes was in it, where she was a reporter somewhere, and she got captured and arrested and treated horribly. And we did all the stuff, lodged complaints, went to the UN, gave a bunch of speeches. She stayed in prison for a super long time and was treated really, really poorly. Like, bad. Because our government, at least, isn't General Hammond.
Well, I mean, even more recently, we had the episode with Brittany Griner. And then through her, I think the general public became aware, and I'm sorry, I really wish I knew his name, Paul, the other guy who's actually been in a Russian prison for much longer than she's been, and he's still there.
Name, but,
I want to say Wheeler is the last name, but you become aware of the plight of folks that are actually out there and not in great situations. Yeah. Like that, they don't just send the team to come get you.
Nope,
they're not sending the A team after you, man. That is not how it works.
They file paperwork that says, "Stop, please
give them
don't
back.
do this.
Can you give them back? Please?
We're going to censure you in the Security Council." Ooh, oh my gosh!
Right.
But the whole drama of this episode is this character Linnea. Linnea is this older little woman who really rules this whole thing. And I said early on, I'm like, hey, so she literally out of the gate, she gives her protection to Sam because they're going right after the lady, and she's like, no, this person is under my protection. She's being very accommodating, friendly, and helpful. And I was like, gonna be the villain. This is setting us up for that. But then they really take you down this path of no, she's good. She's got this unbelievable, technology and this little liquid, primitive understanding of it compared to ours, but still can do some stuff. She confesses her crime, and you're like, I can understand that. It's a thing that makes sense. Then she comes back with us. And Blind Dude comes through as well. He's like, she's the destroyer of worlds, blah, blah, blah. But before that,
Thanos.
Exactly. But right before that happened, she and Sam, which for some reason, Sam is with this, I'll say, unvetted person alone in a highly secure facility. Oh, okay. But they're doing computer work.
That they just busted out of prison.
Yeah. Hey, but go ahead. It's probably fine that you're out there. I mean, you were a Gould a week ago, so what could possibly go wrong? They're doing computer stuff.
At it. She's cleared for duty.
Yeah, just go do your thing, Sam. It's cool.
I said, dude,
it's all right. And, Sam's answering the questions. They're talking science. They're all into it and stuff. I made the note as this was going on. I'm like, oh my gosh. Are we going to have a new recurring character who's just there, and sometimes they bring on to bounce science stuff off of? And then I'm just going to read my note because it take you through my whole thing. Is Linnea going to be a recurring character? Nope. Apparently she's Stargate's Death Walker. Maybe she'll be a recurring character as a villain. But there's a Babylon 5 reference.
Jeff, I need yes. Give it here.
But yeah, 100%. Death Walker. But okay, then she takes Sam out because she's got this magic thing on her hand that can do things, and so she kind of stuns Sam with it. Then she gets on the computer. She's a better typer than I, dramatically. If you watch me watch the episode, I have to watch my fingers, and I'm just, when it comes to typing, I am a complete pecker. It's probably the right button for that one anyway, but she's got it. Right, just doing stuff, sets up this whole thing. She stargates herself off to somewhere and then crashes the system. And the episode ends with them being like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Here's my issue. And I'm going to let you talk me down out of this if possible. Just know this part I'm going to go into. Everything I've talked about so far, I've loved this episode. And then this. Totally unrealistic. Totally unbelievable that she can, in the space of minutes, not only she doesn't even know that we have a way of seeing atoms yet, and we go from that to master typist, hacker, knows how to use all the systems, the Stargate, set up a a cascading crash, set up a message at the end, like total.
Knows a gate address.
Yeah, knows the coordinates.
Knows any gate address. Knows how a point of origin works. Like, yeah, I'm with you.
Knows the point of origin. Like, knows what it is.
Well, it's on their shoulders and all over the facility. You might take a guess.
It's true, I guess. I'll give that one. But also, she was there literally minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe an hour in that whole time.
Yeah.
Totally took me out of the episode, sucked all the wind out of it for me. And I'm just like, this was great. This was good. And it fully fell apart for me at the end.
What you describe is effectively my response to this episode. It's why I personally, when I'm doing rewatches, I tend to skip this episode. I just don't particularly care for it. But Jeff, I will tell you, I did find some things out of this episode I've never thought about before.
Really?
And I've never dove into it before. Real quick though, before we go any further, we did touch on just a few things from the episode. This is Hammond's first time off world.
Yeah.
Which we dove into that. We won't reiterate that. We did talk about that. We have the SG diplomatic team and Bonnie Bartlett Daniels, Linnea.
Okay.
The actress who plays Linnea. Super recognizable, super familiar, really hard to place her. So if you want a few things, she was one of the main characters of St. Elsewhere, for anybody who watched that show way back when. She was also on Little House on the Prairie for about 26 episodes. She also was the mother of twins, Arnold and Danny. That would be Schwarzenegger and DeVito. And she was also Tim the Toolman Taylor's mother.
Really? In Home Improvement.
Yeah, yeah. So a few notable places where you may have seen her from that. We did get one crying out loud.
We did.
And I just want to mark Daniel, when he had his little fight with Vishnu, she did the little hand thingy, and then she did something to bring Daniel back to life. Daniel died.
He did. Yep.
Daniel died. We have a Daniel death, Jeff.
On screen.
Daniel dies on screen. Or if not, he apparently dies on screen, which I'm counting. He had Michael Shanks had effectively a death scene.
And it took Deathwalker to bring him back. Because the first thing Sam says was, oh, he's alive, barely. And it was after she did her hand wavy thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. He effectively had a death scene. The only one that I really want to count that I don't is the one from Fire and Water, where we're told that he's dead, but then we see he's alive. Like, I'm not going to count it. Michael Death had a thing. All right. I want to bounce real quick off of what you kind of were talking about there at the end. It's really interesting to me to note how people are treated when they come through the gate, and frankly, how foolish we are with stuff. Teal'c comes through after helping us, and rightly so was treated with suspicion and mistrust. And it may have taken an other episode to get us to a point where we could trust Teal'c, but they still don't let him off the base, really.
Yeah.
We
got there. It took time, and yeah, exactly that. You don't get to Mr. Spocket and wear a hat and go shopping. You live here.
Yeah, and we'll let you go off world and represent us and do our stuff here, but we still got to be whatever. When the Tolan came through, remember the Tolan?
Mm-hmm.
The aliens that like, hey, they've got more advanced technology. Let's be super cool with them. And then they weren't. And now we got to be super mad at them, but we got to still be super cool because they got cool technology we want, right?
But also with them, they're like, you over here, we're going to quarantine you. We're going to put you in this. Like, they still had security around them. And when they interacted, like, they weren't just given
free to go look at your world. Well, no, we really got to keep you down here. Why? Well, it's not because you're a prisoner. It's because we can't let anybody know that you guys exist. But yeah, it makes you a prisoner effectively. Like,
yeah.
You know, but then we meet Linnea, who comes through, helps them get off the planet. She's our friend. Hey, let's set up some quarters. Let's be cool. Let's be amenable. There's no consistency with how they treat folks as they come through, you know, which I understand in this sort of situation, you might need to kind of play it by the seat of your pants a little bit, play it a little faster, a little looser. But you really never know who comes through.
It's a military operation. Like, that's where I always go back. And I understand this is a TV show.
Yeah,
I get it. Right. And so like, we're going to play loose or whatever, but we talked about how, the gate activates and whatever. She goes and she activates the gate and there's nobody in the gate room. It's just her. How do they not have guards posted?
Yeah.
How do they not, like it was in First Commandment. I think I was like, how do they not have a protocol for when they go to a world and they're treated like gods? 'Cause it's going to happen.
Yeah.
How do they not have a protocol? They have a protocol that when you come through the gate, you go to the infirmary and Dr. Frazier looks in your throat and checks your thing and whatever. And they might be ramping that up after last week. But that's but we're just going to let people come through the gate and just be like, oh, you're going to go get checked out at the doctor. And then maybe not. Things are good. Yeah. If this was a military operation, there would be a sequence of events that were the same every time.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jeff, I'm left to answer the question, to ask the question, what are the messages? What are the sci-fi messages? What are specifically holding up a mirror to society? Hope for the future. Can we be better people to one another? I'm going to really lean on mirror to society and being better people to each other. Hope for the future is not really replete through this particular episode. I'm also just going to point out the fact that if you take a subject that has been covered by multiple other sci-fi shows, I named 2 of them from 2 different Star Trek franchises. DS9 has its own, hey, we're trapped in a prison episode that might be unjust. I'm sure if we thought really hard, Battlestar Galactica has one of those, and name it, The Expanse has one of those, and any other sci-fi show. It's a trope that happens throughout a lot of sci-fi shows. And you know why? Because these are the kinds of questions and things that sci-fi can do so well, which is why we love going through this. Again, can you judge an alien culture and their system of justice, no matter how unjust it seems to you, right? Can you say the same thing that you, because it's really easy to be like, well, listen, that's their culture. It's not our culture. We got to respect it. Can you say the same thing when it's one of your own, or it's you who is caught in the middle of that?
That's the question.
It's a great discussion that we don't typically get. I loved the discussion between Hammond and Kovacic and unnamed corporal or major or whatever, right? Where it's, nope, we're going to go in, balls to the wall. We're going to get our guys out. And actually, we need to handle this a little more diplomatically because they're going to rock our world. They're way more advanced than us. I don't care. We're going to go get them anyway. We really need to this is probably going to be more effective, even if it's going to take more time. No, we're ready to go right now, General. Honestly, negotiating was going to be the more effective way to go through, although we saw it actually was ineffective the entire time. Anyway, SG1 just had to figure their own way off the planet. It's a very Star Trek message. Like, this is a show. This is exactly how Star Trek would have handled that, is get to the negotiating table, not the brute force, right? We're not trying to start an international or intergalactic or interplanetary war here, but Linnea says this line in the middle of all this. There's 2 ways to control a society, through hope or through fear. And we're going to kind of do it through both ways. And my question is it true? Like, the show continued not discussing that idea, but just on the assumption that that was true. And here's how we control, and here's how we give hope. Hope that you can be free, hope that you can escape through the blue swirly thing or through the Zarg monster or whatever, right? Or the fear and the social order. You and I discussed during the episode the idea of unwritten societal rules that people have to abide by. And are you responsible when you break those rules if you don't know what the rules are? And what is your level of responsibility? I think that there was an overarching theme in this episode of holding people responsible for crimes and violations for rules that they had no prior knowledge of. The bigger picture of them getting thrown into prison, the whole fight between Daniel and Vishnu. And I would reference people back to the discussion we had in the middle of the show about how that actually does hold up a mirror to society, because turns out unwritten rules are all over the place in our society right now, and people expect you to follow them no matter what. But then here's the question. The overlords, right? The voices said this line, and I think it all comes down to this idea. If we can boil it all down into one thought, are laws that are immutable just laws? Do laws exist to drop the hammer on violators? Is it just to do that? To have no leniency. You broke the law, you deserve to go to jail. You broke the law, you deserve to have this fine. You broke the law, you now get to pay this price. No leniency, no mitigating circumstances, no nothing. You did that, you owe this. Or do we need to consider the whole thing? Is the law really there to catch you in the act of doing something? Or is it there to help you be better? Hey, yeah, you were speeding. You get pulled over by the cop. You get the ticket. You know what? You were speeding. You were pulled over by the cop. The cop runs your ticket. You've never really had anything. This is not an issue for you. Hey, slow it down, sir. I'm not trying to bust you. What is the cop out there tagging people so he can give them tickets? Or is he Is he running radar to help just provide the presence for people to actually drive at a safe speed? What should that cop out there be doing?
Really great example on that. Neil, anybody playing Jeff Bingo, you can take your Rush square right here, because here's my Rush reference.
Right.
Neil Peart is a drummer for Rush and lyricist. He is also a very prolific author, and he writes a lot of great books. And some of the books he writes are like travel logs, because he would ride his motorcycle between tour dates when they would go. So Getty and Alex would get on a bus, and they'd go, and he'd ride his motorcycle, and had some cool stories. And he talked about exactly that. He says, when I'm in North America, the police are there for the sole purpose of fundraising. I get pulled over for speeding, I get a ticket, period. End of story. When I'm in Europe, I'm speeding, and the cops will often roll up next to me, and they'll give me that signal with their hand, like, hey, slow down, slow it down. And then if they do pull me over, they're like, look, like you're on a bike, this is unsafe, you're going to hurt yourself, you might hurt somebody else, please slow down. Over there, they're worried about public safety. And it was just such a great example of misuse, I'll say, misuse, misdirection of government power. I think also, sorry, I'm all over the place. Here in the state of Oregon, for many, many years, we had a law of mandatory sentencing. So you went through the court process and, the cross-examination, found guilty or not guilty. But we took the discretion of the judge away for a certain set, mostly violent crimes, where I just said, there's a mandatory minimum sentence. You can give more, but you cannot give less.
Mandatory minimums, and that's still a thing
in a lot of places. We repealed it here in Oregon because the damage that it did was profound. We ended up with juveniles in the adult correctional system, and just bad stuff. So that question
under the good premise of trying to keep crime off the streets, trying to not we're going to punish the evildoers as much as we want to have a nice, good, safe place to live, and we're going to take out the evildoers.
Put them over here for a long time.
Which, by the way, then makes jail not a punishment, but we're just going to remove you from society. Which means that when you use jail as a punishment, that it's actually probably not the best punishment.
Also, removing them from society is probably not the best. I could go off for hours on criminal justice.
Absolutely.
I won't. Not in this one.
I will say, just to give my own personal opinion, this is Brent's opinion. I do not speak for Jeff. I just want to make that perfectly clear. Laws that are immutable, laws that have no leniency, are unjust laws every single time.
By definition.
Yes. The job of police and a justice system should be to not enforce rules, but to help rules impact society in a better way. And that's a little wibbly wobbly. A lot of people are going to question me on that. Well, what about this and what about that? And that's why we have judges, is to take each individual case into account and consider those pieces. That's why police officers are human beings and not robots, or at least they should be human beings and not robots.
To that point, a conversation we've had quite a bit, and we don't have to dive into it here, but it's that question of, is it justice or is it revenge? Because justice, again, by definition, justice is making a thing that was hurt or broken whole again. That's justice. Is throwing someone into Hadante for life justice? Is having a mandatory minimum sentence justice? Or is it revenge?
Right. And let's not forget, a part of justice, I think people forget this all the time, a part of justice is mercy. Meaning, hey, you know what? You were speeding, you deserve a ticket. But the mercy is that you don't get one because it's actually, we're going to let you go, slow it down, and we're going to be okay.
This time.
Yeah. This is why I'm issuing you a written warning. So now it's in the system. If they see you again and they give you the ticket, But anyway, this episode discusses it quite thoroughly. Jeff, when you and I first started doing Babylon 5, we would talk specifically when we were doing deltas. We would often say that the delta rating is not a rating indicating how much we liked or disliked an episode. It really was reflective of the message itself. I'm going to apply that here. We would say that because particularly Star Trek, because that was our thing back then, there'd be a lot of 5 Delta Star Trek episodes that are awful, or there'd be a lot of no Delta episodes that are amazing episodes that we absolutely. I'm applying that here. This is Brent's personal opinion. Jeff, you're going to rank this episode here in just a few moments, and you get the choice of doing that wherever you want to. While I do not personally enjoy this episode that often, I think this episode does have quite a bit to say. I think it discusses it in quite a bit of detail. Jeff, I'm going to do something I don't know that I've ever done before. I'm going to retroactively change a rating.
Wow.
I gave 4 chevrons to In the Line of Duty last night. That was too much. It was far too much. That episode, it's really a 2.5, maybe 3 chevron at most. This episode, not 5. I am not giving this one a 5 chevron deal, but this one is catching a 4 chevron deal. It discusses it quite thoroughly, goes in through quite a bit. It does still serve the plot as it moves forward and introduces some new lore. You have an alien who, let's be clear, Linnea was not a Goa'uld. For all of her technology and everything she could do, she was not a Goa'uld. Her little hand device, she's not a Goa'uld. So anyway, I'm giving this one 4 chevrons. No halves, just 4 chevrons. But I am going to retroactively rescore.
Re-rate.
Nerf. That's the word. I'm going to retroactively nerf last week's rating on In the Line of Duty.
I like that. 4 for this makes sense because you did that. This is a much stronger and better delivered message than it was last week. But I agree. It can't be 5 because I don't think that was the intent of this episode. The intent of this episode was exactly what you said. Lore, evil exists beyond the Goa'uld, and now that evil's out there.
Yeah. And we got 22 episodes. We got to fill them in.
And as a point on that, I love if Stargate was made today, in the age of 10 and 13 episode seasons, every single episode would be about the Goa'uld.
Yeah.
That's the story. But there's 22 episodes, so instead we get to explore other races and other things that are out there, and it's cool and it's interesting. And in fact, in my rating of last season, my ranking there, that's why I put like the Nox and stuff so high, because like the Goa'uld stuff's awesome, but dude, this other stuff, these other races, these other cultures, this is really well done and fun stuff to watch.
All right, Jeff. So I did the rating in a very roundabout way. You get to rank this episode, Jeff, on a scale of, well, currently it's 1 to 3 because that's the only episodes we're in. Our current ranking for season 2 of SG1. It's our completely accurate, totally immutable, definitive
not
ranking
just
of season 2.
There's no justice, but it's
There's
immutable.
no
it's ranking,
justice, but it is what it is. Number 1 is currently the Serpent's Grasp, Serpent's Lair duology, because we dipped into the season with that. Number 2 is In the Line of Duty. Jeff, are you just going to keep these in episode order and put this down at number 3, or does this one crack 1 or 2 for you?
It's number 3. This was a fun episode. The bottom completely fell out, and I'm just going to go ahead and guess. I don't even know what next week's episode is called, but that's going to be where we drop out of episode order on our ranking, I think.
Well, it is possible. Would you like to know what next week's episode is called?
I would, actually.
All right, Jeff, we are watching The Gamekeeper.
Okay.
I will tell you this. I will preview this episode next week. You're going to get a fantastic Star Trek and Babylon 5 guest actor crossover.
Okay.
I'm not even going to tell you who it is. You're going to immediately know it as soon as you see the person.
Okay.
So you're going to love it when you see it. But what do you think? The Gamekeeper. Actually, can I tell you? I want to tell you because it may impact you, and I really kind of want you to see if you can't nail it.
Okay.
It's Dwight Schultz.
Oh, wow.
It's Dwight Schultz. Dwight Schultz is in next week's episode. The Gamekeeper. With those 2 bits of information, go. Dwight Schultz being Dwight Schultz, by the way. I'm just,
I had a guess, and I was feeling really, really good about it. Just on the name, because I'm like, oh, this is easy. It's On the Moraine. It's Move Along Home, where SG1 ends up in a game, and their lives are on the line. God, but the Dwight Schultz thing messes. You know what? That's what it is. That's what it is. Dwight Schultz is the dude in the game.
He's
the gamekeeper. That's what it's going to be. And I hope, here's my other prediction, this episode will redeem him from his appearance in the Babylon 5 episode.
Oh, but he was so good in the Babylon 5.
He was. That episode
so
was
well.
That episode was horrible.
Awful.
And it left a dark mark on Dwight Schultz that he hasn't done much to shake off of himself in later years. That's a whole other conversation. But I'm hoping this one redeems him.
Well, we will find out next time right here on Stargate SG1 for the first time. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you're on YouTube, please be sure to like the channel, subscribe the channel if you like what we're doing here at the For the First Time group of all of our stuff that we have going on. And remember, please leave us a rating, review, and the best thing you can do, honestly, is share this show with a friend or a loved one, maybe even a complete stranger, someone you know that likes SG1, or maybe like my friend Jeff over there needs to get into it for the very first time. So thank you guys so much. For next time, we will see you guys when we meet Dwight
Brent.
Schultz. Yes, always, Jeff. What's up, buddy?
I don't know. I was looking forward to this episode, and well, this sucks.
That's the best you got?
That was the line that O'Neill said. He comes out and he's like, well, this sucks.
For crying out loud.